all of a sudden we start hearing drum beats. And we look across the field, and there's a whole bunch of shadow figures, but they're playing ritual drums.
That is wild.
From like an indigenous ceremony. Wow. And they're just marching around this field. And then all of a sudden, from like each of the different areas like around us, we heard like footsteps.
There is nothing wrong with your podcast streaming service. We now control your device. This is not a test. This is Podcast of the Paranormal. Close your curtains and stay away from your windows. Lock your doors, turn off your lights. Get your snacks and drinks ready. Get to your basement or attic. The podcast is about to begin. Hi, everybody. It's Gabrielle.
And Jody.
And we're back with another episode of Podcast of the Paranormal.
So, we have something coming up, huh, Gabrielle?
Yeah, we're going to be at Creature Feature Weekend in Scranton, November 7th to the 9th.
Yeah, so it's important. You know, we're a new podcast, so we're trying to put ourselves out there, right?
Yeah, we did the event in March in Gettysburg, and it was a great event. It was a lot of fun. They have great celebrities, great vendors. It's just a really fun atmosphere event. They have really great handmade crafts that people sell. It's a really great event. Some people have like art. It's really fantastic. Some people even sell like old vintage toys, different things like that. And it's all related to like the horror genre.
Yeah.
So it's really a lot of fun.
It's not really paranormal. It's kind of connected, right?
Yeah, in a way. It's like adjacent.
So that takes place at the Hilton in Scranton on Friday, the 7th of November, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. But you're going to want to go to creaturefeatureweekend.com and look at their schedule, because the vendor hours are pretty much the ones I just gave you, right? They're going to be there that entire time, but the celebrity hours differ a little bit. There might be like an hour on each side where they're not available. And
you could also see who their celebrity guests are for the event. You know, see if there's anybody you're interested in meeting or having some signatures from.
Yeah, it's a good time. So we plan on being there. We plan on talking to people, maybe taking some interviews, right? Some live interviews that we could put into the show. We just want to hear your stories. So come by and check us out.
Yeah. And also if you're into like the horror genre, typically the vendors too, they like customize what they're selling to the guests that are there. So if you're looking, you know, for something specific for a guest that you might be interested in.
Oh, to get like a signature or something like that.
But you don't have anything, you might find something really cool from one of the vendors that you could have them sign.
Yeah, it's a good time. We're really excited to have it in Scranton. We were actually really surprised that it was coming up this way. So.
Yeah, it was really cool and local. I love it.
So anyway, we're going to continue with our interview. Joe, he's going to start out talking about, you'll hear him talk about the Cultural Center. I believe you mentioned that at the end of the last episode. And the Scranton Cultural Center, it's a place that we've visited frequently, right? We did some public investigations there, right?
Yeah, it's an old Masonic temple and Scottish rites.
Big building. It's made out of stone. And
yeah, it has a theater. It has like all like Masonic rooms and like meeting rooms. It's a beautiful building. If you're local at all, or if you're taking a trip to Scranton, it's definitely worth a tour. I think they do them on Saturdays or Sundays.
Oh, they do shows there too. They do concerts and small events.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't just take a tour while you're going there for a concert.
Right.
Sometimes they have like different craft fairs and things, and they'll offer tours too. But it's a stunning building. I mean, it's worth the tour alone. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And they're fixing it up now.
Yeah, on the outside.
If you take a drive by, you're going to see scaffolding to the roof. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a gorgeous, like Gothic front. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And that room where they do like the small concerts, the paintings on the ceiling are like, they're wild, aren't they?
The whole thing is wild. Yeah. It's a stunning building.
Every room kind of has its own aesthetic. And,
yeah.
So you're going to hear Joe talk about that. I believe he talks about the throne room. And he has a few other stories that he talks to us about in this episode, including an encounter with what he describes as indigenous people, or the shadows of indigenous people. So it's pretty interesting. So what do you think? You want to get into it, Gabrielle?
Yeah, enjoy the conclusion of our conversation with Joe.
I remember one of the times I was at the Cultural Center multiple times, but one of the times, it might have been the first time, we were in one of the throne rooms. And
are you going to talk about what happened?
Really looking forward to this.
I have kind of explained this to Jody a little bit, but not like really. I wasn't in the room.
we went with a local group, and the throne room was a new area we were able to experience, right?
Yeah.
And they flat out said, yeah, I mean, there's not really much going on in there, but we'll get in there and see if anybody picks up on anything. And honestly, that room, the hairs on my arms were standing up the whole time. We had cat balls going off around me. That room really wigged me out.
Yeah. You felt like somebody was walking next to you?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, that was insane.
The whole time you walk into that room and you feel like there are just eyes everywhere when you walk into that room. So the throne room, it's a Masonic lodge. And so for those that don't know, the throne room is where they'd hold like meetings and stuff. And there's literally like a throne in the room. But like the big thing was that there was never a woman who sat on that throne. Well, What did we do?
Oh no.
We let a woman sit on the throne.
Oh no.
Yep. 100% that's what we did. And then she starts talking shit the whole time. Like she's just starts cutting a promo on anything that would listen to her and all of that sort of stuff. And so all of a sudden we start seeing shadows of men walking into the room on either side of the room. Like everybody's seeing this whole thing play out. There's shadows of people walking in along the sides of the room as this is happening. It was so strange.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious because we were there multiple times and there were a couple of different experiences there. Which one were you referencing, Gabrielle?
When we let a woman sit in the throne and we noticed how like her face and personality began to change.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember. So that was going to lead to the second story that I had from the Cultural Center, not in the throne room. It was in a ballroom that was in a different part of the building. This building is like a screwed up maze of mm-hmm. all kinds of different spots. But there was a woman who sat in like the head spot. And I just like there were three of us in the room and she's talking and I kind of half noticed that she's not talking anymore, but I'm doing a voice recording like in the middle of the room and I turn around and she's just staring at me like just like hate. If she could have, she would have jumped up and started coming after me. Like I kicked her dog in the face. You know what I mean? Like it was not okay. And like she was unable to talk, and the whole like after the whole thing was done, she had talked about how like she felt like it was her wedding day, but tragedy happened, and I was talking, and she just wanted to get up and attack me. She wanted me to shut up. She wanted me to absolutely stop talking. Yeah, and I don't know as though I was there for the time that you were talking about as far as her personality and look change, but I remember hearing about that one.
Yeah, we've had a lot of really interesting things happen there.
Yeah, it's a hotbed for
yeah.
But that throne room,
and that's one of those places like we said about about more than one thing being true. Like sometimes some of these places, I'll use Gettysburg as another example, right? Like you cannot have the amount of bloodshed in that area, in one single area, and not come out with something, and not have something that's still there, that's still like that. That if it's energy, if it's a spirit, if it's whatever it is, you can't tell me that much tragedy doesn't imprint something on a particular area. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a tourist attraction. Yes, a whole bunch of people have experienced a whole bunch of things there. But just because there have been some that have been really sensationalized doesn't discredit everything else that's experienced there. Like I've heard some of the stories from some of the groups that have gone through the Cultural Center, and there is just nothing that even remotely sounds factual about what they're saying. Like it just sounds like it's just complete and utter hogwash.
Oh yeah.
Even if it is, it doesn't discredit the actual things that have been experienced there. And if you can approach this whole weird world of paranormal investigation or even spirituality as a whole with that level of nuance and open-mindedness, sure, it can be influenced by your influences.
Oh,
Again,
yeah.
your background, your experience, all of those things. Then you're better off for it.
As an example, Gettysburg, I don't think you could go to Gettysburg and not have an experience if you're looking for it.
People just feed it there, like all day long. People are feeding.
But you have to be looking for it.
Right.
And that's what you know what I mean? If you're just going there and you're going to the shops and you're eating and you don't care about the spooky stuff, like you might not experience anything. I'm not saying that you won't.
But you're still feeding it.
You're still feeding it.
Because you're still learning about the battle and you're learning about like there is such like a deep scar there that anything you do there is just going to, you know, you're just going to continue to like
you're making that bubble bigger.
And yeah. Even if it's not like the actual soldiers who've passed there, they have manifested something there.
Yeah.
You know, in so many different places that, you know, and people just continue to feed it.
Right.
Like it's never going to go away.
Yep. And that's so I've often wondered if some of these places that we call holy places and all of that, if there's just been so much consolidated prayer and spiritual experience in one place that even if the land is just a plot of land and the building is just a building, if the holy ground aspect of it was almost like manifested, just like at Gettysburg or just like at any of these other places where enough has happened in one central location, that's what stirred it up. And I got to give credit where credit's due. That's the thought process that I had. I call her the nun who knew how to play guitar. I met her when I went to the monastery to shake what I had going on, and she was like, she completely broke my paradigm for what I thought a nun would be like, especially one that was a resident of a monastery. And she's the one who was like, yeah, I cannot sit here and tell you that I fundamentally know that this place is any different than any other place, other than the fact that there is a group of people who has been here day in and day out for a very long time, praying in one consolidated place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I mean, even to backtrack a little bit there, you're talking about the throne room at the Cultural Center.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all ritualistic stuff that went on there, too.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same as prayer.
Yeah.
Rituals and prayer are the same thing, right? So whatever was done in that room, that was a place of reverence.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that
was a holy ground.
It was holy to them. Yeah. Yeah. And then I think you're right. I think the same goes for holy land, right? You have basically stories that are passed down in history, and people keep treating that land like it is holy. They keep visiting it, they keep praying, and they're just basically putting that imprint on the land.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because some places you go to, you could feel that. Like when you walk into a church versus walking into a restaurant, right? It feels different, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, your senses, you have the sense of smell. You can smell a nice hamburger on the grill right at a restaurant. You know, you're not smelling that at church, but you go into church and church has a feeling, right? I think we could all agree with that.
Yeah.
And again, it's just week after week, people going there, praying, singing, repeating hymns, right? It's all a ritual. You're creating a holy land in that church.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
I think the first place that I was that I you know, retroactively thinking about it, like after I'd had that experience and I'd started thinking about that and all of that, this is a couple years before the experience that I had, but I was in Rome, and some of the cathedrals that are so old in Rome, in Vatican City, there's just a palpability there. You know what I mean? There's just something there that the only other place other than a church that I could say that I experienced it, that level of palpability was, like I said, in New York, in doing, you know, either end of life stuff or trauma response, tragedy response, those kinds of things.
Well, yeah, because that's a transition period for people, right?
Yep.
So again, you're in that in between where, you know, they're alive one minute, they could be dead the next.
Right.
You know,
that
so it's
space.
a liminal space. It's like a spiritual journey they're about to go on.
Right.
You know, so you almost pick up on that. And that had to be really, honestly, really hard for you dealing with that day after day after day. I would imagine that wears on you.
Yeah, it does. And that's, you know, I think it's so human to want to explore these things. And so I think I think for anybody who's still in it and still investigating, or, even just, curious, I think you get the benefit of not having the pressure of having the next huge piece of evidence or the next huge story to tell. Don't get me wrong. It's always cool to have a story. It's always cool when you get a chance to be able to say, like, hey, look at what I got. Look at what we picked up, all of those kinds of things. But when that pressure's off,
Mm-hmm.
then you get a chance to actually explore something bigger than yourself. You get the ability to be able to actually go into a situation and not have to feel like you need to pick something up, but open enough to explore something that is so much bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're human. We're curious, right?
Yeah.
So we want an explanation for the unknown. So
Yeah. And I think, too, a lot of people get into this field because they want to know, like, if these people have passed and I can still communicate with them, then there's hope that when I pass, there'll be somewhere for me, too. Like, like I'm not just going to go into this void. I'm not just going to cease to exist. There'll still be something after this.
well, energy is persistent.
Yeah.
So there is hope.
Yeah, it is. It's very human to have those questions, especially when, like, for those of us that really have, and I'm nobody to evaluate what anybody else has or has not experienced as far as their childhood or what ability they have to see whatever or experience whatever or whatever like that. I do think that there was a period of time where it was very en vogue to be able to walk around and say that you've experienced the paranormal or you have some kind of extrasensory perception or whatever the case may be. But when you have been forcibly introduced to something outside of yourself, that you cannot help but either shut it out entirely,
Mm-hmm.
or fundamentally lean in and say, oh, this is that, like what is this, what am I actually experiencing, because I know I'm experiencing it.
Right.
So what actually is it? And I remember a couple of years ago, it was a whole thing. I found out I had a brother. And so I was, going through family and talking to family that I haven't talked to in a long time and all of that. But along the way, I had ended up talking to an aunt that had told me about my paternal grandfather. Now, my paternal grandfather died before I was born. And I didn't know much of him or anything like that. And along the conversation, unsolicited, she starts talking about, people used to think that he was weird. And I was like, why do people think that he was weird? Because he used to talk about how he would dream and see ghosts. And I'm like, so there was somebody else in the family that experienced this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's almost like a breath of fresh air when you when you hear that somebody else has also experienced these things too.
Yeah, it seems to run
yeah.
in like family lines, right? Because I know that my mother and father weren't very receptive to it when I told them weird stories, right? I used to have the dreams all the time. I still do. In fact, I have dreams where a loved one visits me, someone that's passed, or oddly enough, I dream about people that I haven't seen in a while, and either they had passed or they pass away shortly after. And I would always tell my parents about this. They weren't very receptive to it. But I had an aunt that was. So talking to her about it, she would always tell me, you're not the only one. You know what I mean? People have this stuff all the time. There's people in your family, wink, wink. And it was just nice to have that conversation with someone who wasn't going to look at you like you were the weirdo, in the family. So
someone who got it.
Yeah, someone who got it.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was my grandma. She would always say she had somebody, or she would always say she had like a sign on her forehead that would tell people to come and talk to her. And I can't help but wonder now, like, was she psychic?
You have that sign on your forehead, too.
I do.
You do.
I do. Like, was she psychic? Was she an empath? And then my mom, as an adult, like my mom had came out and said that her mom had like some problems with alcohol, was that something that she used to stop the things she was seeing, like the dreams, the visions, the things that were happening to her in her waking life? Is that what she learned, that drinking alcohol would stop it? And is that what she did?
So one of the things that, but where the rubber met the road for me in having any kind of, if you want to call it an ability or whatever the case may be, for me was when my son passed away. I had a dream about a year after he died that he was a grown adult and he and I were having a conversation. And he had said afterwards, like, okay, I have to go now. I have to go, I have to go now. And he kind of like went off into like a light. After that point, I chased every bottle that I could to shut that off.
Yeah.
Like I that led to a good 5 years of time where there was not a single day that I was sober, because I never wanted to experience that again. Now that sounds great until you actually wake up.
Right.
Like it is great until you actually wake up. You know what I mean? And it took a long time for me to accept the fact that there is a world of this, that for anybody who actually experiences these things, who actually has what I call a holy burden on them, that in some way, shape, or form there is a sense of theirs that can touch something greater, something beyond, something outside of the veil. It took me a long time to accept the fact that could be used as a gift to help other people.
Yeah.
That I can take this and because I experienced this, I can give this to somebody else.
You could definitely tell that story and give people hope.
Yeah, and harness it.
For what it's worth, yeah.
Even to help other people.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, I think for me, one of the most important takeaways that I've taken, like at this stage of my life, and looking at the grand tapestry and the things that were real and the things that weren't real and the things that were over embellished and the things that were experienced and the whole nine yards, that for one reason or another, there has always been an aspect of me that has been very in tune with the outside of myself. Like I knew for, I don't know, a year or so before my dad died that he was going to die.
Yeah.
Just could tell you, it just was a thing. I just knew, those kinds of things. And I've seen enough that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the spiritual world is real. But because I know that, like I said before, I've become more and more discerning over anybody that says that A, they experience it, or B, that they've got evidence of it.
Right.
And that's one thing that like I was a little waiting on bated breath when I heard that when Jeff first approached me and told me that you guys were starting the group, and then you guys started the group and started the podcast, and I started listening to the podcast. I'm like, I wonder how they're gonna treat this. I wonder how they're gonna treat the evidence aspect of it and all of that sort of stuff. And the fact that one of your own was so open about approaching it with scrutiny was like, okay, that's refreshing. That's a good thing to approach something like that with scrutiny, because then if you are helping somebody, and this, Gabrielle, from anything that you've experienced, the weight that's on your shoulders when you are approaching somebody and having a conversation with somebody that involves that outside of yourself component of whatever you experience, like you're holding a person's feelings and hope and perception in your hand in that moment. And you can either treat it with kid gloves and love and care and leave them with something that they can take with them, or you can do some very, very serious damage.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and Gabrielle's really good at that. She's a people person. My mouth works faster than my brain's going. My brain's still processing information while I'm talking.
Yeah.
Because I have severe ADHD. But that's why Gab is the one that does the talking. I prefer if she's the one that does the talking. Because she is a people person. She has a social work background. And she's able to handle people a lot better than I'm able to anyway.
Yeah. If you would have told me even 5 years ago that the main aspect of what I do for a living involves the care of people on a spiritual level or at an emotional level, I'd have told you were outside of your friggin' mind. You know what I mean? There's a part of me that when I listen to the show, I so resonate with the way that you talk, Jody, because I'm like, yeah, no, it's analytics, it's data, it's asking big questions, and it's scrutiny, and I get that whole idea of your brain processes at such a pace that sometimes it outpaces anything else.
Right.
And it was I had to train myself to slow down. I had to train myself to take a beat and to listen first and to actually listen and rather than listening to respond.
Yeah, I could use a few pointers in that for sure.
But yeah, I mean, sitting here going down memory lane, I'm like, I could do it again. You know what I mean? Like, there's always that part of your brain, that reptilian part of your brain, that's like, man, it's fun to talk about the fun parts. It is. You know what I mean? And it's good to talk about the non-fun parts and all that sort of stuff. But like, you know, if there's anything that for anybody, you know, I listened to that one series of interviews that you had done with the guest that you had on, and I was listening to that, and that person really challenged a lot of my belief system. The person that you had that was talking about thought forms,
Heather.
Heather.
Yeah,
really challenged some of my more classical thought processes and all of that sort of stuff when talking about different things or thinking through some of this stuff and all of that sort of stuff. But I ultimately ended up really enjoying it because it was somebody who was coming at it from an entirely different point of view. And I think sometimes we do fall prey to confirmation bias, where this is just what we believe, and so we process it through that lens. Like you were talking about Ed and Lorraine. You gotta remember, they come from the era of the Satanic Panic. Everything from that time period that had anything to do with the paranormal, that was the devil. Like, everything was satanic. Everybody was a Satanist. You had to make sure that you were protecting your kids from the Satanists and all of that sort of stuff. And like, any time period has their flavor, or any group of people has their flavor of people who fall prey to confirmation biases. And when you think about these things, and you got to question yourself a little bit and say, like, yo, how confident, like, we can be confident in certain things because of our beliefs, because of our standards, because of what we've experienced, the whole nine yards. But there is absolutely a level of this where, like, we don't get the latitude to be able to be any kind of confident.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, like, we just don't know. And being willing to accept what another person has to say about it and open yourself up to different experiences is half of the benefit than just getting, like, that picture that's wild, or that piece of audio that's wild, or that experience where you're looking at your team and being like, yo, we cannot explain that through the scientific method.
Right.
All of that's cool, but also you get to experience other people's culture, other people's experiences, other people's way of thinking through things. And when you approach the paranormal and you approach the spiritual, when you open yourself up to the possibility that you are going to experience something that's going to challenge your precepts on reality, then the world is your oyster. Then there's a whole new plane of existence, quite literally, that you have opened yourself up to the possibility of. And I think even for people who, like, you don't get much more supernatural than the Christians. We worship a dude who came back from the dead. Just saying.
Zombie
but
Jesus.
There's still this rigidity that takes place.
Right.
This rigidity that it has to fit within this box. It has to fit within this paradigm. Says who? There was a guy named Michael Heiser who has since passed away, but he wrote this piece called The Unseen Realm. I don't agree with everything that he said, but in the modern context, he is one of the foremost authorities within the Christian world of people that are really positing that the dynamic, even from like, if there are people listening that are coming from a Judeo-Christian background, even working within that sandbox, you don't have to go outside of the realm of everything that's contained from Genesis to Revelation to still have on the table a plurality of spiritual beings.
Well, you wouldn't want to limit yourself either to your religion, right? Your religious beliefs,
right?
Because what happens if you experience something that doesn't fall into your wheelhouse, right? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right. Immediately, you're going to say, "Oh, this is negative. This is something I don't understand, so it's bad."
Right. It either fits in my box, or it's something
else.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's like other.
Right.
And that's half the fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's where the good stuff is, when it's like challenging you, when you're growing from it and learning.
Yeah.
You're never going to learn if you're not challenged, right?
Right.
And it's, again, part of being human.
And I think that's too where like a lot of people in this field fall into, like they have their beliefs and they aren't willing to go outside of that. They don't want to grow in that.
And if you asked me 5 years ago if I'd be doing a podcast about the paranormal,
right,
I would have said, hell no.
Yeah.
You know, so Gab actually pushed me into this. It was back in, I don't know, you want to tell the story? It was back in like what, 2018, 2019 when you graduated?
Yeah, in like 2019, I think we kind of started. And then like by 2021, I think we really started like jumping in.
Yeah. We started going on our own trips, you know. We started going on our own trips down to Gettysburg and Fort Mifflin and stuff like Cape May. We did Cape May. Yeah, and she got me hook, line, and sinker. She reeled me right in.
Yeah.
And since then, it's something we love. It's not just a hobby, but we like talking about it. We like bringing people on the show. We like like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
But honestly, everybody's welcome. You know, we want to hear everybody's story. We love to hear stories. It's kind of like a safe space, right? You want to talk about something, you want to get it off your mind.
Yeah.
You know, we encourage people to email us and come on the show and tell their story.
And that's the duality, right? Because like on one hand, you know, there's this call for discernment and all of the things that we've talked about, skepticism, the whole nine yards. But also, in my experience, other than like a shared experience in the sense of we were both in the room when whatever happened, outside of that, there are no two belief systems that are exactly the same.
Right.
There are no two rubrics that are exactly the same that you're going to be working off of, which means when you open the doors and say, come tell your story, then every single at bat, you may end up with similar notes here and there, but you're going to get a unique story. And part of hearing a person's story is hearing a person's experience as well.
Right. But you could always put those patterns together, right?
So I have a story for you guys.
Oh, boy.
Me and my friends, we used to play in a cemetery nearby, like where we live right now. And one night we saw this shadow figure in the trees. And, you know, we left. We never went back. We stopped playing in the cemetery because we were scared. So come like maybe, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years later, my brother-in-law and I are having this conversation, and he starts talking about this thing he saw in the cemetery. Same cemetery, same place, same shadow figure. We described it the exact same way. And he told me what he saw, and I was like, wait, where were you? And he's like, I was in that cemetery. And I'm like, no, you were? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I saw that there too. He's like, no way. Like, we never knew that the other saw it. We never talked about it before. It was crazy.
Wild.
It is. I still won't go back there. It creeped me out.
So one of the spots where, you know, this wasn't necessarily a a full-on investigation in the most classical sense. This is more of a bunch of us getting together and at the one guy's house that was in the friend group who had, claimed his space was haunted, and lives in an old barn out in the middle of nowhere, like about an hour to an hour and a half outside of the valley heading north. And we are out there, and he's goes to start explaining things, and I'm like, hang on, I don't want to be influenced by anything that you have that you've experienced, other than like, is there anything that we need to be like, is there anything we need to be aware of from like a safety point of view? Okay, no, cool, then let's go. And so we're out in the middle of this field, right? And all of a sudden we start hearing drum beats. And we look across the field, and there's a whole bunch of shadow figures, but they're playing ritual drums.
That is wild.
From like an indigenous ceremony. Wow. And they're just marching around this field. And then all of a sudden, from like each of the different areas like around us, we heard like footsteps and stuff like that out in this field. Like, it wasn't anything necessarily angry, intimidating, anything like that. It wasn't negative. It wasn't angry that we were there. But in that moment, it very much felt like we had invaded their space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That in that moment, like we were on their ground. Come to find out, there was a group that lived there, like, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago, and had it was an illness that wiped out the entire populace, and it had all become like farmland and all that jazz.
That's like your dream experience there, Gab.
Yeah.
To come across something like that. Yeah, I don't know how I would feel about that.
I don't know.
I would feel like I intruded a little bit too.
Yeah.
I would. I think I would. Yeah.
Like you didn't get invited, but you showed up anyway.
I mean, I'd be floored at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So what'd you guys end up doing?
So we very quickly said, hey, okay, got the point. None of you are allowed to follow us. You have to stay here, but we're gone. We're leaving. Like, we are actively going. This is your spot. We're leaving. And that's we did. We packed up shop. There was a separate barn building and a different part of the land that we had set up a voice recorder in, and nobody was in the building. And we very purposefully, whenever like somebody was coming in to grab the recorder, that person immediately started talking, because the audio was already polluted, because it was it was an old enough barn that you could hear like the door and then somebody walking and the whole nine yards. So all of the audio was polluted. So our thought process was, go ahead and just saturate the audio, so that way that's when one of the team members was in the building. But everybody that was like with us, like in that core group, was accounted for. And we heard like footsteps walking up to the recorder. Somebody, like, it sounded like somebody grabbed the recorder and just say, "Get out," and then put the recorder back down. And then we didn't hear any like footsteps back away from it. So like at that point, we like, after listening to it after the fact, it was like, it became evident that like we had done exactly that. Like, we had intruded on their space. And so we just like in the moment distance ourselves from what had happened. But like, we also, this was in that period of time where I wasn't necessarily as ethical, I guess is a good way of putting it, since we talked about the ethics of paranormal investigation, that I wasn't necessarily as interested in, am I doing it the right way? All of those kinds of things. We just knew at that moment that it was the right move to like leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. Or you look back at some of the things he did in the past and you're like, I don't know if we handled that great. I mean, we still today, right? When we started doing this stuff on our own, we look back at some of the early investigations and we're like, we probably should have handled it a little better.
Yeah.
Done things differently. Yeah. So I have a question for you. Was there water nearby that barn? Running water?
Yeah, there was a like a river creek sort of deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, on one of the edges of the property.
The only reason I'm asking is because we tend to pick up some hot spots near bodies of water.
Oh yeah,
rivers and streams, usually running bodies of water. So just curious.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever heard that one, but that's good to know.
Specifically around the Susquehanna. I'm drawing a lot of lines around the Susquehanna and a lot of tributaries that run around and into it.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's it's fun to be able to say that you've experienced something as you go out to these places. And like, I think in this area, for one reason or another, it feels like there are a lot of spaces in this area where like there seems to be legitimacy to the experiences that people are having at these like outdoor locations or at
Yeah.
these more popular places. And for
Yeah.
every one, you've got 15 that are absolute horseshit. But that still, it still feels like there is a fair amount in this area to take in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and in Pennsylvania in general, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of history here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
One of the weirdest spots that I'd been outside of the state that just had a weird vibe. And I feel like if memory serves me correctly, this will resonate with you, Gabrielle. Salem.
Oh yeah.
That whole region, that like Salem proper, but like that whole region is just. I don't know if it's because of all of the history there. I don't know if it's just it's well known there, and so like you go in there like looking for it, sort of thing, like looking to have an experience, sort of thing. But like it just feels like there's so much, like it was off-putting when we were there, so my wife and I, to give you a benchmark on what kind of weirdos we are, we honeymooned there.
So did we.
But, like, that's awesome. And so there were tours of people that were like completely like on the up and up, right? Like people who were just like taking it very seriously, talking about the history, talking about paranormal stuff, talking about all of this stuff. And then you had people who were like dressed up like Halloween witches,
Yeah.
like Hocus Pocus sort of thing. And like because of the actual like vibe of the area, my wife and I both were like really put off by the whole like almost making a mockery of it sort of thing.
That sounds familiar. It sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
Gabrielle can't stand it. She's like, I knew Salem first before everybody else was into Salem. She's the original Salem hipster.
Another thing that I can thank you for, Gabrielle, is Count Orlok's. I remember I reached out to you.
How cool is that place?
Dude, that was awesome. Like all of the memorabilia there, the showing room that they had, I can't remember what movie it was showing. I think it was The Exorcist. And then they've got like the doll of Exorcist sitting in the corner. Like it was that whole place was a horror nerd's dream.
Yes.
Like that was like Disneyland for people who are into horror movies.
Yeah.
Like that, but I would have never known about Orlok's had I not reached out to you for recommendations of places to go, and you were like, this is the place that you have to go.
Yeah, I love it there. They're in the it used to be like the Witch's Cottage. I think it's still called that. And they have a show where they go through like the folklore of the history of Salem. It's so cool. I love Salem.
Oh, this is turning into a Salem episode.
Salem's a vibe. It's just like a vibe. Like it's almost like you could like almost like touch it. Like
it's like Gettysburg.
Yeah.
It's like Gettysburg.
Yeah.
It's palpable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like the places that are famous there are not like some stuff happened in like the major tourist spots, but there's a lot of it that didn't happen in that region proper, but like there's still that vibe. Like in the area itself, like it just is so pervasive.
Yeah.
And she will tell you all the stuff too that's off the beaten path. Have you ever heard of the graveyard for graveyards?
No.
There's a graveyard for graveyards right in on the outskirts of Salem there, and of course Gabrielle figured it out. She found out that this place existed, and we went there.
Yeah.
But that's how our trips go, right?
Yeah.
It will take like a day where you find like 10 different little areas
Weird
you want to
things.
visit, and we'll go, and we'll sometimes only be there for 10 minutes. Be like, okay, I'm good. It scratched the itch. I'm good. We could go to the next one now. And people are looking at you like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell are they doing there? Like, what are these people doing walking in the woods in the cemetery?
The time I said, I was like, I just want to lay down in the foundation of the Proctor house.
Yeah.
I didn't, but.
A little weird. And a funny story is, her and her mother have always said that they felt like they were connected to Salem in a way. And, Gab's mom, we bust her chops. We're like, you're just making that up, But Gab sometimes is like, no, we were really connected here and this and that and the other thing. And then once she got her DNA done at Ancestry, we find out that she really did have family members that basically were like settlers up there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people who came over, and I think they called it like the Great Migration. So like they didn't come on the Mayflower, but they came about 10 years later, and they helped to settle Plymouth Rock, basically.
Oh, wow.
Like Plymouth Colony. And then one of them moved into Salem and literally passed away in like 1692, just around the time of the witch trials. And he had like helped to settle Salem and create, I think it was the grist mill out there.
Yeah, crazy.
That's wild.
I'm Irish Italian, so my only story is, potato famines and, mafia stories.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I also being Irish and Italian, I'm a couple of other things. I'm not like purely just those two things, but those are my two most dominant traits. When I was in Italy, it felt like there was a pull when I was there that like there was some connection there, and like come to find out that I thought a lot of my family made a lot to do about a little and all of that. I didn't necessarily think that I'm a first generation American or anything else like that, but come to find out I'm second. Like I'm a second generation.
Oh wow.
That's so
my grandfather
cool.
actually was from Sicily.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think I'm third generation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be third.
That is so cool.
But yeah, I think for me, when you allow yourself to accept that there is something going on outside of yourself, it's added an extra layer of enjoyment in a lot of regards to some of these spaces that are more packed with history and thus packed with experience and packed with stories and things like that. And one of the things that like I had mentioned, a bit ago, when it finally when it finally came time to be like, okay, let's take this out of the box and let's actually ask the question, are we actually entertaining the idea of me getting back in the field? One of the things that I think I would find fascinating about it is being able to provide, we're talking about from the people aspect of it, and that's a huge portion of it. But what if, again, I'm wrong, and there is actually a spirit, and it is actually a human, or if it's not human and it's something that is intelligent, that is looking for, I don't know, is curious about interacting with us, right? Like if there's something that's extra dimensional that really does not understand us and is engaging with us in some way, shape, or form, and there's some level of that. What if what we can do is allow that thing, that person, that being, that entity, whatever word would best describe whatever it is that you are engaging with, what if you're able to let them feel heard?
Yes.
Yeah, I almost feel like that's what we get into with the Estes method, I think, a lot of the times, because it almost feels childlike and curious with some of the responses. So, I mean, I could, I like where you're going with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things that I had said to you, Gabrielle, and thinking about it even more since hearing that. So I actually, that episode where you guys had like that really like those series of sessions that you had played back, and it really seemed like you were getting some call and response. I listened to that episode a couple of times. I've never done an Estes session. I had never heard of that before listening to the show.
Oh, wow.
That's one of those things that if I were to go back and do it again, I would want to do that.
You are always welcome.
Like that is fascinating to me, because there's so much when you understand matter and you understand, and I'm going to get real nerdy here for a second. Like when you think about like the quantum mechanics of the universe and how matter is constant and matter is present at a level that you do not necessarily see or comprehend without some kind of accessory, and then you put a field up around you by using the audio and all of that is able to act as like a sieve. It's like a filter that you're able to take in the things that are going on around you, and you are giving an open door for things to be able to communicate with you and all of that sort of stuff. That to me is absolutely fascinating. Like the fact that because it makes all of the sense in the world, right? Mm-hmm. That you've got audio waves and you've got static that's acting as this perception filter that's bridging the gap, that takes your senses that are only attuned to the five senses around us and say, okay, but here's this layer that you're distorting the perception of what the most common filter is and saying you're opening the door. And the thing that fascinates me most about that from the spiritual component of it is what if you have to be willing to ask yourself what if, because what if is one of the most important questions that you can ask yourself in paranormal research, because again, who's got the smoking gun? There's no body that was ever there was no body found. There was no absolute holy grail ever found. There was no smoking gun. So you are only left with asking questions and being willing to be open and things like that. So what if those of us that have experienced a heightened sense of reality with the paranormal, with things outside of ourselves, what if things like that are adding the extra layer to allow other people to catch up to where we are? Like that's not like that's saying it in a certain way, but like what if then you're starting to get into the actual mechanics of what people who can experience things outside of the norm actually experience?
Yeah, I mean the Estes method, I always refer to it as assisted mediumship.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're almost putting yourself into a trance state. And I have to say, it's something you kind of, my experience with it is it's something you have to learn, okay? Because when you first go into it, you're prone to just repeat what you're hearing under the headphones on the radio, right?
Or
as it's switching
hard
through
to
channels.
hear.
Or it's very hard to hear. And I have found out that the longer I do it, the more I do this, that I am actually putting myself into a state where I'm relaxed and I am basically letting go of my mind and I'm letting my subconscious sort of take over.
Yeah.
And then I start hearing and visualizing things. I'm coming up with whole sentences.
Yeah.
Just things that I'm thinking, visualizing, hearing over the radio. You know what I mean? It's scary sometimes because I can't hear what's going on around me when these guys are asking me questions. And when I listen back to these recordings, like, wow, sometimes my mind is blown. Does it happen all the time? No. But I feel like some people are definitely better at it than others. And I don't understand it. I don't understand how it works. You know, whether it's something that it's in our psyche, our subconscious, that's we're able to tap into by providing that sensory deprivation. But it's just so very strange when you're getting direct answers, when you're getting direct responses to the questions that are being asked by the people outside of the headphones. It's just fascinating to me. And I'm almost like, it's sometimes it feels a little dirty. I get a little hooked into it. I like really hooked it. And it almost feels a little dirty. Like I have to shake it off when I'm done, right? But I'm still very fascinated with it, and I'm very, very interested to see, where it takes us.
I think something like that is, I think I would put that in the same category as I would put EVP. And I've come to, there was an experience. Now I won't, there are a couple of different reasons why I won't go into the exact details of how I got the EVP, but suffice it to say, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a turning point for me, and why I never from that point on, again, we're all works in progress, right? Like we can all look at ourselves 5 years ago and cringe. There's nothing more cringeworthy than looking at, social media from 15 years ago and all of those kinds of things. Like, right. We can all say that about ourselves. Like I am a work in progress, but one of the areas where I really think I came to understand, even if I didn't necessarily have all of the lyrics for it, the power of something like EVP was when I was in this location and the recorder was going, and the voice of somebody who had passed away was caught on tape, like caught on the recorder. And that to me was eye opening. And I would put something like the SS method in that same category, because you are using a tool to break down a barrier and be able to say what you need to say. Like do what you need to do. And that, if there was any component of it that would draw me back in, it's the idea of being able to help. It's the idea of being able to say that there is a component of this that is not just for the humans, but there is also a component of this that is also for whatever it is that you are communicating with.
Oh yeah.
The danger and the issue and the trepidation and all of those things absolutely sits at the level of, can you actually trust what you are talking to? Can you actually trust? So you always have a measure of risk whenever you are engaging with different things. Like there's a road nearby here that, like, different people have said they've experienced something that isn't like necessarily harmful or anything else like that. It's actually more lighthearted and all of those kinds of things. I did not have that experience in any way, shape, or form the last time that I was there. And that's one of those areas that I would seriously caution anybody from going back there. Like I just would. But that's again, you have to ask all of those questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. It makes sense.
On that note, to end things, would you want to investigate with us?
I would definitely think about it. I would definitely think about it. Like there's definitely a part of me that I think I've been benefited in my time as a pastor, having had all of these experiences and experiencing the paranormal and all of that sort of stuff. Because not a lot of people in and I'm going to use a word here that gets thrown around like water, but I mean it when I say it. Not a lot of people that are in the pulpit have also been a part of occult practices.
Right.
That there's not a huge crossover there. You know what I mean? I have. And so when we talk about these things from the pulpit, I'm talking about it from an informed perspective. And when we're talking about the paranormal, I'm talking about it from an informed perspective. And so there's always this part of me that is like, yeah, it certainly would not be like we've talked about multiple times now. It would not be with the same motivations. I have no more questions. I don't need to know what goes bump in the night. What I would be more keen on is there some way that I can step into the mix and to be of some benefit? Can I let something have a voice that needs to have a voice? Can I be of help to somebody or to a situation or different things like that? You know what I mean? That would be more of the driving force for me, because I think that there's a level of you able to do that without going into a home. I
Oh
don't think
yeah.
you need to do a residential in order to be helpful, or in order to be able, because you look at something like, again, Gettysburg, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much energy there that, what if you are allowing for some of that energy to have a voice? Because if energy is constant and cannot be created or destroyed by human means, then to what lengths are we giving credence to that? To what lengths are we giving autonomy
Mm-hmm.
to that? And if we are giving any measure of autonomy to it, then you are still allowing it to have a voice and say what it needs
Yeah,
to
you're
say.
giving
You
it
know
a
what I'm saying?
purpose. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Joe, I want to thank you for spending time with us.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
I got to say, you blew my mind a few times.
Yeah.
And since I understand we're pretty close here, I would love if you would come out with us sometimes. Again, no pressure. It's whatever you're comfortable with. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you having me on. Like I said, thoroughly enjoying what you guys are doing, and it's good. It's good, and in a lot of ways cathartic to get into a space like this and to be able to talk about these experiences.
Thank you. We really appreciate the
Yeah,
kind
thank
words.
you.
Like I said, anytime you want to come on the show, you want to talk about something, give us a call.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So, Gab, I'd like to thank you for bringing Joe on the show. He was a really great guest.
Oh yeah, Joe's great.
I think he's our number one fan right now. So, Joe, if you're listening, I know you are. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It was great.
And I know you have more stories.
We have to have more conversations like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, again, we're going to be at Creature Feature Weekend, November 7th through the 9th.
Yeah, come check it out. It's a great event.
Mention the hours at the head of the show. You can also check out their information on their website, creaturefeatureweekend.com. See what they have to offer. All right. And Gabrielle, our listeners, where could they find us?
They can find us at www.podcastoftheparanormal.com.
Do we really need the www now?
I don't know.
Maybe we got to modernize it, call it triple dubs. 3 dubs.
On our website, you can find access to our episodes. You can find all of the platforms where we're streaming. If you're interested, you can listen in any form. You can also find our contact form.
Mm-hmm.
And
Contact form is very important. If you
Yeah.
want to send us a story or you want to come on the show, use our contact form.
yeah, even if you want to give us feedback, we'd love to hear from you.
It's easy to find. Contact form is the 4th tab on the right, I believe.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your stories. And more importantly, we'd like you to follow, like, share the podcast.
Yeah.
Help us get out there. Really enjoying doing it.
We hope you enjoy listening.